Somewhere in an unknown solar system, across a multitude of stellar spaces, there is a world like Earth that stood out from the other planets. Because of its uniqueness, the natives called it the Blue Planet. Many years ago, a huge catastrophe struck the world of the Blue Planet from the heavens, engulfing the entire world. Humanity, which had never expected such an outcome, was gripped by panic and terror. The world was in chaos. Hordes of different sizes and strengths of monsters unleashed their might on humanity. But there were people, the chosen ones, who stood up for humanity. They have awakened abilities with which they have a chance to fight back against monsters. The order of the world was completely changed. Other values have replaced the orders that people are accustomed to. Chaos, devastation, anarchy, all that remained of the former world order. In an environment teeming with monsters, armed people, only the strongest survived. Under a huge rock in the light of the setting sun, a wounded boy whose name was Gao Miao sat leaning against the rock. Through the searing pain, he remembers that he was transported here from the extremely peaceful 21st century planet Earth. When he opened his eyes and got used to the pain, he realized that he had moved into the body of someone he didn't know. Looking at the dead bodies of the people around him, his heart was filled with the pain of loss. After coming to his senses a bit, he learns that the original owner of the body was a man who had awakened the ability to grow every day, which allowed him to improve his body in every possible way. Holding his head, looking at the whole horrible scene, completely covered in wounds, Gao Miao recalls more and more details about what happened here and how he survived. Alarmed by the strange sound, he looked away. A huge mutant was rushing at him, its mouth showing its enormous fangs, its eyes showing only blind rage. Suddenly, in an unknown space, an emotionless robot-like voice sounded, strength level, third energy level. In the next moment, perplexed and looking at his hands, feeling the power bubbling inside him, Gao Miao doesn't understand how he was able to kill this huge mutant. After burying the bodies of his fallen comrades, he walked off in the wake of the sun, going farther and farther away. Back in the city, the protagonist noticed that his physique and name remained the same. As he became more and more absorbed in his memories, he was puzzled and didn't understand why they addressed him as Gao Miao here, and not Owen as the original owner's name. The man opposite asked how he liked his new outfit. 2 years later, the city of Zari. Looking at the ruins of a once vibrant and whole city, the protagonist has figured out the pros and cons of his ability. A little embarrassed, he heard a woman's voice. He saw a red-haired girl being enveloped by green tentacles. The green tentacles were the ability of a man with purple hair gathered into a long ponytail. Behind him stood a half-naked man with golden short-cropped hair, and they didn't seem to care about the consequences of attacking the girl. The girl, whose name is not yet known, was clearly against their attack and tried with all her might to resist. The man with a crazed expression continued to use his ability. Suddenly, from far away, they heard words that urged them to stop hurting the girl. In the next instant, a spear fired on the high ground flew toward them swiftly at greater speed. Alarmed, a man with golden hair appeared out of nowhere and lost 2 of his hands. The spear reached its target and slammed into the wall with residual force. The girl looked toward the corpses. On the ground lay the bodies of men who were already dead. The protagonist descended from the dais with disdain in his gaze. He slowly approached the girl in the slime and assured her that it was safe here now. Gao Miao asked if she needed his help. Embarrassed, pressing her body against him, the girl thanked the protagonist for saving her life. Looking at the girl with seriousness in his gaze, he said that the strength of her body, although strengthened by the ability, it was still too weak. The girl was not happy to hear his words and denied everything. Gao Miao held out the iron ball to her, and the girl stared at it bewilderedly. He said that if she could crush him, he would recognize that she was strong enough to take care of herself. The girl tried to crush it, but she failed. Looking at the guy, she asked what qualifications she would have if she could crush him. The hero said with a nonchalant look that if the stone was crushed, she would be qualified to sleep with him. This turn of events did not suit the girl, and the next moment, bluish-colored wind blades flew at the guy. With a lack of understanding of what was happening, Gao Miao was forced to leave. As he was walking through the streets of the city, someone called out to him. The lord of the city of Zari invited the hero to his estate as a guest. Meanwhile, among the ruins and dilapidated buildings in an abandoned part of town, a teleportation field formed on the ground. A monotonous, lifeless voice sounded around. Team Iron Flag has successfully entered the world. 3 richly dressed men and a woman emerged from the teleportation array, a formidable-looking creature hovering above their heads. Moving to the new location, they began to look around. Their companion in a long red robe with a mirror in her right hand decided to warn her companions of the dangers of this world. A man with red hair, dressed in a blue caftan, clearly disagreed with the woman and argued stubbornly with her. Dressed as per the dress code, a man with a short beard and a scar on his cheek made them stop arguing. He asked the blonde guy, also their companion, about the conditions of the next world they needed to abide by. The guy claimed they were in a world from a series of movies called Survivor. In the first 3 parts of the movie, the main character, Zhang Chufan, rebels against the power of the main villain and goes on a mission to find a part that can be used to purify water. After going through many difficulties, he meets 4 companions and finally faces the main villain, Pan Wei. In the battle that claimed the lives of all of Zhang Chufan's companions, the main villain was killed. The blonde, green-eyed guy asked the creature that had been hovering over their heads the whole time what part of the world they were in. After doing his calculations, he came to the conclusion that this was the world of Survivor 4 from part 4 of the movie. The group wondered how there could be a next installment if the main antagonist was dead. After finding out that part 4 was not a continuation of the movie series, but a story about the appearance of the series' main villain, a man with a short beard asked about the task they needed to do. The next moment, 3 dialogue boxes tabbed "Attention, Task, Reward" popped up in front of their eyes with a beep sound. Surprised at such a large reward, they discussed the details of the mission. Grasping his head with his left hand and squeezing hard, the blonde guy in the robe realizes that if such a great reward, then a corresponding danger will awaken. As he delivers his monologue, he says that they have to figure out exactly what moment in the movie they're in to determine what level of power the main villain is at. Their AI companion, codenamed Guide, reported that the world simulation had been determined, and they should be ready. Moving their suit-clad companion said they should interrogate a local to find out the exact situation of the world. City of Dawn to the mansion's premises. A man who introduced himself as Pan Wei with neatly combed hair and 2 earrings in his ears was holding a glass of red liquid, apparently wine, and was happy to welcome the protagonist into his abode. Kalmio took the opportunity to devour all the food he saw. The owner of the estate kindly offered to drink his wine. The waiter, with a calm expression on his face, graciously poured the wine. At the same time, an eagle flew on the abandoned military base, its eye strangely ignited under the use of the blonde guy's ability. It seems to be an ability with which you can scout the area. The guy reported everything he saw to his comrades. The red-haired boy wondered why the tower was destroyed, and what they were supposed to do next if it was destroyed. Things were not going according to their plans. The man in the business suit continued to tell the plot of the movie, and made them realize that their target might be stronger than they thought. The woman who accompanied the men used her ability, and killed the military base guard, thereby gaining full access to his memory. She learned that our protagonist had just arrived at Pang Wei's mansion. The guy dressed in a blue caftan with a smirk suggested to his companions to take advantage of the situation and try their luck to capture both of them. Realizing the difficulties they will have to face, they realize that things won't be that easy, as Pang Wei may have too many tricks up his sleeve. Gao Miao stared at the wine suspiciously. He realized that there was something wrong with it. Skillfully getting out of the situation, he offered it to the owner of the estate. Pang Wei refused the wine. He said that it was prepared especially for him. But our protagonist stood his ground and tried to make the lord of the manor take a sip first. He just looked at Pang Wei with a feigned smile. The lord of the manor, without giving any signs, suggested that he might have something on his face. The hero with a smirk began to tell what he saw on his face. As obvious as it was deception, cunning, greed, and stupidity. Since he really was fully confident that he could deceive a person with a similar level of development. Summoning a huge shield covered in green flames, Pang Wei blocked the poison. He couldn't understand how Gao Miao had circled him. The hero with a calm expression waved the glass away, saying that he was too weak and couldn't notice anything. Gao Miao's words made him angry. He couldn't imagine that there would be someone who would dare to talk to him like that. But the protagonist didn't want to exchange words, and the next moment, a punch with his hand was coming towards him at a great speed. He was forced to hastily block the blow with his shield, unable to withstand a single blow from Gao Miao. The shield shattered into small shards, and Pang Wei took the blow with the same force. Clearly unprepared for such a thing, Pang Wei was horrified. The next moment, he crashed into the wall, leaving a huge dent in it. To everyone's surprise, Gao Miao's strike did not leave any injuries on the lord's body, destroying only the shield. Pang Wei slowly stood up, shaking off the dust from his shoulders. It seemed to have absorbed all the damage he had taken. Completely unscathed, he was sure it would continue to be so. Like suddenly, in the next moment, not realizing what was happening, He looked down and was horrified to see a huge bloody gash in his stomach. He realized that this blow was stronger than his own ability. Gao Miao, with a calm gaze, slowly approached Pang Wei. Looking at Gao Miao coming closer and closer, covered in sweat and worried, he said that their conflict could be resolved peacefully and that it was a simple misunderstanding. Pang Wei was forced to admit that he had misjudged the strength of his opponent. With a furious look, Gao Miao rushed towards him at full speed. Floor debris flew everywhere. The next instant, he was right in front of him with his fist raised ready to strike. A straight punch to the face finally convinced him that he was stronger than he was. Pang Wei couldn't withstand this blow, and with his eyes rolled up, he died completely covered in blood. Without stopping there, as if mocking my opponent, a boot came down on him. The picture was horrible. The wreckage of once still used furniture lay everywhere, and in the center of the room was a huge crater. Seeing the defeat of his lord, the soldiers kneeled before the protagonist. Unprepared for such a thing, he was very much surprised. One of the soldiers quickly estimated Gao Miao's full strength, and said that he was now the new city lord of Zari City. Seeing the pluses in this, the protagonist, having thought about it, decides to be him for a couple of days. In turn, the soldier, apparently chief among them, says that they will give the fullest support they can. Clearly, something is on Gao Miao's mind as he gives his first order. 3 days later. On a huge stage in the middle of the open sky stood a girl with blue hair that reached her waist and a guy with a microphone in his hands. On the microphone, he was announcing the new participants who would be performing on the stage. On the stage, the players who were invited had to demonstrate their abilities. On the other side of the stage sat Gao Miao. His gaze was directed at the girl. Behind him stood 3 soldiers wearing uniforms and masks that covered half of their faces. The girl with blue hair introduced herself and began to demonstrate the ability with which she could control the liquid. The hero appreciated the skill, but unfortunately it wasn't too strong. A huge scoreboard described the girl's details. As it turned out, Gao Miao's first order was to gather all the beauties of Zari City and have a contest of female abilities. However, despite the fact that it was ordered to collect only beauties to get the expected number of participants, were invited not very beautiful women. Sighing, Gao Miao realizes that things didn't work out the way he had hoped. Upset by this fact, he was called by a soldier who claimed that they had found a contestant who might be a good match for him. The hero heard this and asked her to come on stage and perform. A girl whose face was hidden by a veil and whose body was covered by a long cloak came on stage. The girl introduced herself as Ning Xiaofu. Her ability was to create illusions that affected the mind. Gao Miao evaluated the girl according to his criteria and said that this ability is not common and it is quite unique. From the stage, looking at the girl, he asked if her ability was strong enough to create a dreamlike illusion. With a flirtatious smile, Ning Xiaofu said that she knew how to do it, and there was no problem. Gao Miao chose her and ordered her to be taken to his room. The girl, listening to the guy with the microphone come up a little puzzled, agreed. In the bedroom of the new city lord, the soldier brought Ning Xiaofu over and hurriedly withdrew. Seeing the girl, Gao Miao wanted to introduce himself first. In no way expecting this, the girl ran up and pressed herself against him with her whole body. With a flushed look while emitting quiet moans, Xiaofu says that he can satisfy all the desires he has. The guy hadn't expected her to be so decisive and rash in her actions. He decided to explain to her that he wasn't interested in her and was only interested in her ability to create illusions. Gao Miao said that she should use her ability to create an extremely real dream for him. The girl was embarrassed. She couldn't make such a dream without long preparation. The protagonist, waving his hand, said he was willing to cooperate and asked what he had to do. Putting a white bandage on Lord Xiaofu's head with a mischievous smile, she asked him to relax and forget about all the problems. Without doing anything, he allowed Xiaofu to get closer. Leaning down to his ear, she gently, in a whisper, asked if he felt anything. Gao Miao reminded Xiaofu of the purpose of her invitation to his chambers. But the girl insisted that it was a necessary preparation, running her hand over her chin unnoticed by Gao Miao. The girl's long pointed nails protruded. In the shadows of the bed were silhouettes of a guy and a girl, from the back of which were visible 3 terrible growths in the form of a scythe. In the next moment, the girl's voice changed. The teeth in her mouth changed, replaced by huge fangs from ear to ear. The girl's eyes took on a fierce, beastly look. In a commanding tone, she asked the hero not to open his eyes. Xiaofu, in the guise of a mutant, began to use her ability. She was surrounded by a fierce purple aura, her powers enveloping the protagonist, forming a cocoon-like shape. Wrapped up in a cocoon, Gao Miao enjoyed what he was feeling right now. With a bit of force, he calmly freed himself from the web enveloping him that was caused by the girl's ability. Receiving the backlash from the destruction of the spiderweb, Xiao Fu spurted blood. Cao Miao, not knowing what to do, decided to play along with the girl once more. She had no intention of giving up so soon and continued to release more and more curls of purple web with fury. The hero once again found himself completely wrapped in the web. Xiao Fu was puzzled and thought that everything had worked out. But once again it all came crashing down. Xiao Fei was pondering. It seems the protagonist is only now realizing that he was being tried to be attacked. Saying incomprehensible words, the girl removes the bandage from Gao Miao's face. The girl put Gao Miao into hypnosis, but such a weak mind hypnotizing power could not harm him. But after thinking about Xiao Fu's thoughts, he decided to play along. He followed the girl to the exit of the room. Xiao Fu didn't even realize that her hypnosis hadn't worked. They walked holding hands. The uniformed soldiers bowed to them all the way. Far outside the city in a dilapidated hobo village, Xiao Fu returned to her companion's temporary shelter and introduced her new, hypnotized companion. Her companions, with calm expressions on their faces, pondered its value. Fully confident in her mind control abilities, the girl told me there was no problem. A man with a short beard and a scar on his cheek asked if there was a problem with the change in the plot. Since there is nothing in the movie about power being handed over to Pan Wei, Blondie said there shouldn't be a problem. Listening to their conversation, our protagonist realizes that the world in which he has fallen is just a movie. And in this movie, he plays the role of another character. Realizing that their strength had been augmented by another peak third-level warrior, they became even more confident that they could get the reward. They began to discuss the details of the mission, not realizing that the culprit behind Pang Wei's death was standing right in front of them. Without understanding what they were saying, Gao Miao thought about the strength and personalities of the people standing next to him with frozen eyes. And also, the organization that was able to move these people. The guy with the golden hair clapped his hands. It looked like he had a plan. He shared that he should first lock up Gao Miao and get more information from him. Xiao Fu agreed and ordered Gao Miao to move to another room. The hero obediently carried out the order. However, in the next moment, he felt threatened. It looked like he had been exposed. He quickly got rid of the violet cobwebs enveloping his body and concluded that he needed to kill one of them as soon as possible. Blocking the blow of a huge fist flying towards him, he flew out into the street. Deftly, he landed on the ground. The impact of the huge fist did him absolutely no harm. A formation manifested itself underfoot. The formation spread over a fairly large area. It seemed to be a formation with the ability to explore. Streams of formless energy were rushing towards him, eager to harm him. There was a big bang. The smoke cleared, and a huge stone creature appeared in front of Gao Miao, with stone growths instead of hair. Knobby muscles flowing all over his body enveloped by a purple aura. On its shoulders sat 4 travelers. The red-haired guy was perplexed as to why they had attacked Gao Miao. The blonde guy named Tom told his companions that he could track brainwaves with his ability, and that during their conversation, he realized that Gao Miao was not under hypnosis and understood everything they were saying. The guy with short hair and a scar on his cheek changing into his fighting form said that they could warm up on him before taking care of Pang Wei. The mutant girl, fooled around her finger, was outraged. She wanted to kill Gao Miao by all torturous means. The smoke cleared in its place was a huge-sized crater caused by the explosions and abilities. Gao Miao stood in the center of the crater. With anger in his gaze, he applied his true form, his silver hair grown out and his outerwear modeled from the explosions. Angry at the fact that he had to shift into this form, he said with a smirk that everyone who had seen his full form was dead. The red-haired guy wondered how Gao Miao could be so strong, because in the movie, he was just an ordinary NPC. A stepping stone that Pang Wei easily passed through. Only now did they realize that our protagonist had killed Pang Wei, and from that moment on, everything and plans were ruined. Their companion in a combat uniform with short slicked back hair decided that they had to be extremely careful from now on. Realizing that there is no other way out, he shouts loudly, telling his companions that they must use all the strength they have to kill Gao Miao. Fully covered in red armor, a man with a scar on his cheek activated his suit at full power. Keeping up with him, a man with short red hair whose name was Nelson absorbed the magical stone-incarnated mutant. Debris from the stones caused by his transformation flew everywhere. With a smirk on his face, the protagonist hoped it would be nice if they could entertain him a bit and not die from a few blows. As if it understood his words, the huge mutant howled in his direction and rushed to attack. The man in the battlesuit quickly moved around and released huge lasers in an attempt to hit Gao Miao with them. Gao Miao pushed off the ground, rapidly approaching the man. He threw a punch, encouraging his opponent to stick it out. The man in the suit began to faint from the crushing power contained in his blow. Nelson, in the form of a huge mutant, rushed to his captain's aid. Using a strange formation, Nelson's fist carried towards Gao Miao. Looking at the patterns of the formation, the hero found out that it contains gravitational force that can make the blow even stronger. Mimicking his manner, Gao Miao struck out with his fist. The impact was so strong that the giant's body began to fall apart. Eager to help his comrades, Tom used a forbidden spell, and blood began to flow from his cheek. Huge red tentacles were summoned from the sky. Gao Miao was approaching the center of the tentacle cloud that had appeared with a bullet. Easily breaking through the cloud, he had time to taste it as well. Xiaofu also decided to make her move. A huge cross appeared behind her back, with a skull in the center of the cross and finger bones sticking out on the sides. Using her art, the girl summoned the soul of a huge mutant skeleton. As it materialized, waves of violet-blue energy flew everywhere. The spirit let out a palm in the direction of his enemy. Unclearly, from where Gao Miao picked up a stone-sharp stalactite-like object, he released it in the direction of the blue palm. Having successfully stabbed into the palm of his hand, it seemed that would be the end of it. But instead, the simulated spear pierced the palm of his hand, and with the same force swept towards the spirit's head, killing it permanently. A mutant girl named Xiaofu got a big kick out of the spirit death and spurted blood. Amidst the huge holes caused by the battles, the man in the battlesuit came to his senses and determined that perhaps the protagonist was already at power level 4. The man in the battlesuit pulled out a sharp object shaped like a dragon's face and told his companions to do the same. Listening to their captain, they thrust the strange objects into their bodies. A powerful aura flowed from their bodies and godlike creatures manifested in the sky. Gao Miao was aroused and looked at them longingly. The guy rushed towards them, high jumping into the sky. There was a huge explosion, and Gao Miao was at the very epicenter of it. After that, from the bodies of the travelers, the powerful aura that surrounded them began to rapidly fade away. The bodies of the group were all covered in blood. Meanwhile, Gao Miao sank to the ground. Satisfied with the duel, the hero says, if they admit defeat, he will spare them, but... On the ground lay 4 bodies covered head to toe in blood, all of them dead. After showing his full form, Gao Miao realized that he still couldn't control it 100%. He has expended too much energy to maintain full form, and he urgently needs to replenish it. The sky was filled with huge clouds. A creature resembling a Chinese dragon flew out of the sky. Holographic tables with information appeared in front of the protagonist. The countdown started on the blue panel of the table. The error occurred before reaching 0, as suddenly, a cute creature with a huge bow appeared in place of the huge dragon. The cute creature's eyes were vertical like snakes. It had horn-like growths on its head, and its back was adorned with angel-like clear wings. The little creature seemed to be alarmed. She looked at the corpses of once still living people. Bringing her paw to her mouth, she began to ponder what consequences awaited her after the death of the travelers and being discovered. Gao Miao didn't understand what was going on, and decided to ask a question. But she didn't want to answer and was angry that her thoughts were interrupted. The surprised and alarmed creature didn't expect he could see her. Nui So called the creature didn't think that a character supposedly from a movie could see her cute form. Gao Miao, on the other hand, said with a nonchalant look that she was too conspicuous and impossible to miss. The hero, angry at being called an NPC, decided to capture Nui. But it turns out that she is just an information creature and cannot be caught. However, in the next moment, Gao Miao was holding her by the huge bow that was around her neck. The little creature was floundering in his hand and trying to free itself from his grip. Gao Miao wasted no time in asking her questions, but Nui didn't want to answer questions so easily, so he decided to threaten her. As if realizing something, Nui said that he was also a traveler, so he could see her. Gao Miao was confused. Nui says that the secret of the mane will be impossible to hide, and that the Temple of Void Heaven will soon know everything, and so he must trust her. She says that the temple's attitude towards other travelers is very bad, and that they will do everything they can to kill him. She said that with his level 4 strength, he can't defend himself, and the only way out is to leave the world. He'd heard about the levels, but he didn't understand why she was so sure he'd go with her. Gao Miao, looking at the sky, didn't realize if this little creature could be trusted. Determined to trust her, he agrees to take Nui out of this world. But before doing so, he wanted to know how to leave the world. Nui perplexedly stared at Gao Miao. She didn't know that he was incapable of leaving this world. Making a proud face, Nui said that only with her help they could do it. Our protagonist wanted to know more details. Nui explained the whole process in detail, and that she would have to give up the power of the Heavenly Void Hall, or else she would be found very quickly. At this time, Gao Miao had to create a brand of consciousness extremely quickly. The hero with a calm look clarified how he could get a brand of consciousness. Nui will actively connect with Gao Miao's soul at this time. She assured me that it would be completely safe. Crying, Nui says that if he accepts the branding, he will own her, and in no case should he refuse, or she will be completely destroyed. Waving her hands to the sides, Gao Miao said that she could begin. Looking at him in her mind, there were different thoughts, but she had no other choice, and she decided to rely on this man. Gao Miao started to encourage her and told her that everything was fine and she could start. Particles of energy began to gather around Nui. The boy was struck by the blinding brilliance and had to squint. Behind Nui appeared her real form and a system window with information about fixing the bug. With tears flowing from her eyes, Nui threw herself into Gao Miao's arms. Not feeling threatened, he decided to do nothing. Nui came closer and closer. A huge yellow beam slammed into Gao Miao's chest. Experiencing an unusual sensation, he noticed that there was something attached to his soul. Out of the guy's chest came Nui in her little form. She was overjoyed. Not expecting such a thing, he was surprised. Nui was hustling the guy because they need to get out of this place soon. The boy concluded that everything had worked out. Nui kept saying that he had to leave or the temple would reveal information about him. Feeling threatened, he agreed. The little beast told her that Gao Miao could travel from one world to another. Unfortunately, he couldn't use it on his own, and she could help him with that. Realizing everything, the guy tells her to hurriedly activate his ability. With a calm expression on her face, Nui nodded. But before that, Gao Miao decided to collect the spoils from the 4 travelers. Nui Mashapaz insistently asked me not to. She reasoned that there was a residual stigma attached to them, and with these things they would be easy to trace. Turning around, the guy was upset by this answer. Moving to the process, Nui began to activate the ability. A blue, formless aura surrounded her. Feeling something in Gao Miao's body, something activated. After questioning if everything was alright, Nui continued. A huge blue dome began to spread from their location. But Nui forgot to warn her master, and that is that when you travel, you can't choose which world you want to travel to. It's all random, but that didn't confuse the hero in any way. Nui quickly figured out this ability, and realized that as long as they were properly hidden, the virtual Sky Hall would almost never be able to find them. A new unknown world. In a high-tech room, Gao Miao and his new companion looked around suspiciously. The main character's clothes had completely changed, becoming the usual clothes of people from the 21st century, and his hair was completely black. The protagonist was perplexed, and teasingly asked his little companion why they were in this room. She replied that he would find out the details through the so-called system. 2 dialogue boxes, title and plot, appeared in front of them. Interested, Gao Miao began to read the plot. He remembers that he had seen a similar movie plot before. Not believing what the system says, the guy asks if they've crossed over into the movie world again. Thinking about what to say, she decides it's not the movie world. Continuing her speech, she explains that there is an opposite world to the real world, and it is an imaginary world. Many movies, literary, artistic works of people, were born from the inspirations of people from the imaginary world. Little did I understand what Nui was saying. The main character assumed the land belonged to the side of the main world. Without giving up hope of his return home to Earth, he asked if there was anything she could do. But she explained to him that he could only travel to random worlds with his ability, and he couldn't choose which world to go to. Maybe if they're lucky they might make it to Earth next time. But there's also a chance it won't happen after 100 trips. Louis encouraged Gao Miao and gave him hope that if he became stronger, he could return home. The little creature continued to explain to the protagonist all the intricacies of the system and the virtual resources that were being used. When he enters the world of Demon Chin, Nui assured that she would help her master in any way she could. Pressing her paws to her muzzle with a pitying look, Nui told her that she had only used 2 virtual resources, and now only 1 was left with her. Gao Miao was already impatient to get things started and earn as many resources as possible. Distracted by something, Gao Miao turned his head. In the mirror, he saw the face of a guy he couldn't forget it was him before the move. Nui confidently said that it was directly related to Gao Miao's ability. Once he activates the ability, he enters a random world, and if he moves into any of the characters, the power that character had will be at the same level. As for the other aspects, Nui said that both body and soul would be replaced by the form of the master's ability that he had before he moved. Therein lay the mystery of why he was called by his real name. Taking out a letter with a small formation in the middle, Nui said that the character that was replaced by the main character is shrunken and stored in the owner's imprint. With the help of Nui, the guy can use the print one more time. Thus, a character from the previous world was transformed into the system and a virtual character account was created. He can replace himself with this character at any time. To transform even faster, you can cast the appropriate transformation spell. Gao Miao with the envelope in his hands tried to do so, but it didn't come out as he expected. With a disappointed look, he realized that he still needed to thoroughly understand this new ability. This was not important to the protagonist, as they had a bigger goal, namely to get into the world of Sinister Soul to earn more resources. Showing her readiness, Nui began to open the portal. Energy began to gather around Nui. Using a spell, she successfully opened the door to a new world. Without wasting time, Gao Miao asks where the place is. She explained that this place would be a kind of camp for them. Looking at the interior of the room, Gao Miao asked if the color could be changed. There was no problem with that because this room can be changed as the owner wishes. In the next moment, the interior was replaced by a magnificent carpeted room, flanked by huge columns with huge dragons made of ice intertwined on them, and a large high-backed bed in the middle of the room. Gao Miao was puzzled why Nui had made everything here pink. As suddenly, the girl was wrapped in green vines, and there were small cuts and gashes all over her body. She was dressed in a beautiful white dress, her silver hair adorned with a butterfly barrette. The girl resisted and muttered scornfully that she wouldn't say anything. Her rival in a long green robe and green hair was unconscious, eyes rolled back. The green vines were destroyed. Perplexed Gao Miao does not know what is going on. Not expecting this, he merged with the woman's body. The reincarnation was a success, but the protagonist didn't think that the next character he would replace would be like this. A palace was built on a huge tree trunk wrapped in sharp vines. Gao Miao felt ill at ease in his new body. He was noticeably weaker after replacing the dryad. His little furry companion warned that he could only use one tag corresponding to one account on the system. Nui assessed Gao Miao's condition and assumed that it was normal that he had weakened since this body was much weaker than the previous one and was a level below in strength. Doing his calculations, he realized that the dryad had been at this level for a very long time, and that her ability wasn't too strong. In extreme cases, he would use Owen's account from the past world. But Nui shouting tried to tell him that he should only use the personality and power of the dryad, or else he would suffer if he shifted into Owen's personality in this world. The general hero thoughtfully drew an analogy to the immune system and invading cancer cells. Now he understood what the four travelers were trying to do in the Blue Planet world. Concerned, Nui said that if one spent the virtual source, one could fool the heavens for a short while and then Gao Miao would be able to use Owen's identity. But they had come to this world for the opposite purpose. The system displayed all the information about the body the protagonist replaced. Name, Dryad Wizard. Rank, 3. Demonic power, 600 and other features that dryads possess. Petting Nui, he delved into the details of the dryad's life story. The girl with silver hair and butterfly hairpin didn't see Nui and thought that Gao Miao was talking to himself the whole time. Calling the girl by name, he called out to her. After complimenting Nie Xiaoqian, he asked her to stand up. Nie Xiaoqian, covered in wounds, didn't understand what he was going to do. The girl was ready for any punishment and asked that he not pretend to be kind. Only now did he realize what was wrong and why she was covered in wounds. With a joyful smile, Gao Miao appreciated Nie Xiaoqian's beauty. The defeated girls who came along with Nie Xiaoqian looked dejected, their bodies covered in wounds. Behind the pink swaying fabric, Gao Miao, in a room filled with water, was surrounded by many beautiful beauties. They were playing and laughing merrily. He poured the healing vial of green liquid into the pool. By using this medicine, he wanted to gain the favor of women and heal their wounds. But it would also make some things easier for him as a dryad. Nui asked if he was tempted by the sight of so many beautiful girls. He replied to Nui that he understands and doesn't want to force them. Seeing that Nui was also swimming, he asked why she was doing it, and was told that she just liked to do it, even though she couldn't enjoy all the delights of the virtual world. The general hero didn't understand her actions, and said when they would go looking for the virtual resource, and why they still hadn't applied any actions. She replied that the time had not yet come, and the gods had not made the tasks that needed to be done to get the virtual resource. It might be necessary to fulfill a certain condition to create a task. Beautiful girls swam up to Gao Miao. One had pink hair and like pure emerald eyes. The other had brown hair. She smiled welcomingly. At that moment, he wanted to stay in this world longer to enjoy such moments of ease. He wanted Nie Xiaoqian to treat him the same way. Unexpectedly for Gao Miao, she looked in his direction. At night, a crumbling old mansion. Two young people, a guy and a girl, approached the mansion. The guy had a huge basket on his back. The girl was wearing a green leg-opening dress. Her neck was adorned with a butterfly pendant. The guy's name was Ning Kaichen. The girl's name was Liu Xiaoqing. In the mansion, a formidable-looking man was sitting on the floor with a sword on his lap. After saying that everything she was doing was ordered by the Dryad, the man called Yan Xiao decided not to exorcise the ghost girl. Liu Xiaoqing decided to complain to Yan Xiao about the fate of the other female ghosts in the palace. The man was in agreement with Liu Xiaoqing's words, as he himself wanted to avenge the death of many innocent souls from the Dryad. But the guy with the basket on his back reminded his brother that he had already fought a Dryad and their fight had ended in a draw. Yan Xiao explained his words by saying that he had made a breakthrough and right now was at the pinnacle of chi power refinement, and he definitely had a chance to win. He wouldn't let the Dryad cast a single spell. This huge, majestic tree palace was built by a witch Dryad, whose body was replaced by the protagonist. It was built here for a reason. The tree had a number of great, extraordinary properties that increased strength. Digging into the memories he received from the Dryad, Gao Miao decided to try to do so. Saying the words of power, he touched the tree trunk. Particles of green energy began to gather around it. Gao Miao smiled. He had succeeded. And now, by borrowing the power of the tree, his demonic strength had increased from 600 to 900 years. In his mind, he calculated that he needed another 100 years to advance to the next level and become a demon king. As one would expect, this world had a different level system. The highest rank was Demon King. Realizing his level of strength, Gao Miao realized that in this world he was almost at the top of the path. And if he didn't face truly strong individuals, he could do anything. Determined to test his new power, Gao Miao, in the guise of a Dryad, released a huge amount of energy from his hands into the sky. The demonstration resulted in large puffs of smoke on the ground. After playing with the Dryad ability for a bit, Gao Miao decided that he would use the Dryad's personality for long-range attacks, but it needed to be improved first. The trapped girls saw his demonstration and smiled with appraising glances at him. But their thoughts were occupied with a way to escape from the place. Nie Xiaoqian was standing to the side. After noticing something, she looked up into the sky. There was a huge rumble in the sky. Its sound was maddening. It sounded like a Taoist priest was making it with his skills. Gao Miao, in the guise of a Dryad, noticed something wrong and hurriedly ordered everyone to hide in the palace. The little flying companion of the protagonist quickly explained that the only priest in this area who could do this was Yan Xiao. Ni Xiaoqian seemed to know what was going on, and the girls hurriedly crowded around her, wanting to know more details. After figuring out everything they wanted, they further discussed the changes in the Dryad as she had become noticeably kinder and less hateful lately. With a caustic smile, Nie Xiaoqian hoped that by tricking the invited Taoist, she would be able to handle the Dryad and free them. Already confident of the Taoist's imminent victory, the girls cheered. Wanting to watch their battle, Nie Xiaoqian conjured a water mirror with her skill. Yan Xiao, wearing Taoist clothes and a sword behind his back, was approaching in the direction of the huge tree. Behind him, Ning Kaichen and Liu Xiaoqing were discussing something. Gao Qiao, in the guise of a Dryad, greeted him respectfully. Yan Xiao's eyes sparkled. He began to use a movement technique, rapidly approaching at Gao Qiao. Not expecting such a rash attack, Gao Miao was surprised. Accepting his challenge, he also collapsed from his seat in the direction of the Taoist. Looking at him with a smile, Yan Xiao did not expect him to engage in close combat with him. Yang Xiao slowly drew his blade from its sheath. In his mind, he echoed to himself how stupid his opponent was. Using his sword technique, he delivered blow after blow, moving from place to place. Finishing his blows, he put the sword back into its scabbard. All the blows reached the target, and Gao Miao received many wounds. Realizing his mistakes and the fact that he was now in the body of a Dryad, he had to change the method of his attacks. Having learned his lesson all covered with wounds, he fell to the ground with a clatter. He realized in his mind that he could no longer be so careless. The Taoist's companions were certain he had killed the Dryad with a single technique. Noi pawed at their words and mocked quietly. The joyous girls had already started celebrating the Taoist's victory and shouted out loud cheers. However, Nie Xiaoqian realized the old Dryad could not be defeated so easily, and through the magic mirror, she told Yang Xiao to be careful. After listening to the girl, he withdrew the blade from its sheath with a movement of his fingers. He decided to finally finish and make sure of the death of the Dryad, which, according to his companion, had claimed the lives of many innocent souls. Concentrating, the Taoist began to gather fire energy around him. Yellow-colored blades materialized in the sky. They flew as if programmed in Gao Miao's direction. The attack achieved its goal. There was a huge explosion. With a movement of his finger, Yang Xiao returned the blade to the scabbard. Looking through the magic mirror at the ongoing battle, the girls were sure the dryad was finished. Ni Xiaoqian, with peace of mind, was finally able to sigh. Perplexed, the Dao looked in the direction of the explosion. He was sure he had killed the dryad, but where did the other, more powerful key come from? Yang Xiao was completely puzzled. The smoke was gradually clearing. Gao Miao's hand appeared out of the smoke. After summoning the system, he clicked on the Owen character icon. The last virtual resource was spent. The smoke completely cleared and revealed a figure unknown to anyone in this world. It was Gao Miao in the guise of Owen. "Now the real fight will begin," Gao Miao said with a smirk. Nui had always believed in her master and didn't think he would lose so easily, but she was upset that the last virtual resource had been spent. The group of girls had no idea where the dryad had gone, or what kind of person had appeared in her place. The Taoist's brother assured his wife that everything was fine. Yang Xiao had fought the dryad countless times, and always their battle ended in a draw. He didn't believe that Big Brother could lose. Flying nearby, Nui laughed at their silly conclusions. Yang Xiao didn't understand how his opponent was able to change so much right in the middle of their battle. Shifting into his second form from the previous world, our protagonist was ready for the second round of battle. At high speed, he was approaching the Taoist. The Taoist was amazed by his speed, and within a couple breaths, Gao Miao was already standing right in front of him, ready to strike back. Determined to move to action, the Taoist began to pull out the blade. He used the same sword technique, appearing in one location or another. Without being able to follow Gao Miao's movements, he was hit in the face. Blood flowed from his mouth and nose. Yang Xiao didn't expect his opponent to make the same mistake of engaging him in close combat, and as a result, he was injured unprepared. Using his blade, he stopped the movement of his body. Having completely stopped, a mysterious formation appeared behind him. Yan Xiao used the blade technique. Countless golden swords appeared above his head. All the created blades flew towards Gao Miao in Owen's guise. Unperturbed by this attack, the hero blocked it with his advanced physical body. Creating huge hands out of the flames, he completely fought off the remaining swords summoned by the Taoist spell. Nui decided to remind Gao Miao that he must finish the duel as soon as possible, otherwise they would face heavenly law problems. The hero, realizing the seriousness of the situation, decided to act quickly and decisively. Realizing that he had to do something about it, the Taoist decided to use another technique. Standing with one foot on the hilt of the blade, he tried to materialize a strange symbol. Unknown signs spread around him, and the blade hovered above his head. The fully created symbol took the form of a mirror with golden petals around it. Yang Xiao pointed it at his enemy with fury, but, notwithstanding one single blow, it was destroyed. Destroying the mirror, the power contained in the fist did not dissipate and reach the Taoist, giving him an unimaginable blow. The sword that had been hovering above the Taoist's head the entire time lost its power and slammed into the ground. The wreckage of the mirror and the blade lying next to it amidst a huge crack. On the ground, not believing what had happened, lay a wounded Taoist. Gao Miao in the guise of Owen approached him. Only now was he able to get a good look at the man and make sure that he was Yan Xiao. Bringing 2 fingers to the man's neck, Gao Miao checked his pulse. He was still alive. He was badly wounded. That's the conclusion the protagonist came to. Not believing what they were seeing, the girls were confused. They wondered how he had become so strong. Liu Xiaoqing realized that they were accomplices, and they would be finished. Baby Nui cheerfully congratulated her master on her victory. Not daring to look at it anymore, Ning Kaichen ran in the direction where the Taoist was lying. Liu Xiaoqin shouted in his back, dissuading him from this crazy idea. But despite being underfoot, he fell face down, right at the feet of his brother's enemy. Gao Miao realized that rage had clouded his heart, so he was unable to think rationally while rushing towards an opponent far superior in strength. In the tree palace, Liu Xiaoqin and Ni Xiaoqian were on their knees. Liu Xiaoqin tried to take all the blame by asking for mercy for her sister. The main character didn't understand why Liu Xiaoqin was the first to speak to him, since the plot of the movie says that Ni Xiaoqin should be the one to speak. She was the instigator of the conspiracy in the movie. Gao Miao began to speculate, and he came to the conclusion that his arrival in the world had changed the plot. Ning Kaichen looked at the girl who looked like his wife. For some reason, she seemed familiar to him. Nai Xiaoqin was also perplexed and looked at him suspiciously. With tears in her eyes, Liu Xiaoqian continued to beg for the general hero to let her sister go. Not knowing how to comfort her, Ning Kaichen looked at his wife with a pitiful look. Watching this from the side, Gao Miao suddenly felt pain within himself. Finally, the mission to mine the virtual resource was launched. 3 windows with mission details appeared in front of the general hero. After carefully reading the details of the mission, he fiddled. The system said that he had to win Nie Xiaoqian's heart. With a confident look, Gao Miao admitted he didn't understand women at all. That fact didn't upset him, though. He was already thinking about how to do it. The people around him thought he was talking to himself again. Still continuing to kneel, Liu begged for mercy for her companions. A trembling Ning Kaichen, Liu Xiaoqian's fiancé, decided to intercede for his wife, stating similar intentions. Recognizing the guy's courage, Gao Miao clapped his hands. The two girls like one drop of water, and the guy named Ning looked in his direction. The dryad and her small flying companion slowly approached them. The anxious Liu Xiaoqian didn't notice her hand being taken. After complimenting Nina, he did it to him as well. With a kind expression on his face, Gao Miao linked their hands together. There was a romantic atmosphere around them. He said that he would be happy to see them together. He himself was thinking of something else. This will allow me to achieve my plans of taking Nie Xiaoqian's heart faster. With a smirk on his face, Gao Miao said that Ning would now become the son-in-law of his main body. Little Nui understood her master's namaste and hummed softly. In one of the rooms of the palace, the dryad and Nie Xiaoqian were left alone. The fragrance of incense wafted in the air. Remembering the bad words said during their fight with Yan Xiao towards him, he approached Nie Xiaoqian with thorny branches instead of his hands. The girl here already believed that the dryad had changed for the better, but he remained still as vindictive as before. Without denying anything, the girl confirmed his words. Nie Xiaoqian realized that she had no other choice left and rushed to attack. Under the influence of her ability, the girl's sleeves lengthened, and 3 small blue fireballs were created, trying to attack the dryad. With a nonchalant look, Gao Miao, piercing through Xiaoqian's attack with his vines, nullifying all her attempts to fight back. The vines lifted the girl into the air wrapped around her back. She screamed desperately and wished he were dead. Seeing Nie Xiaoqian's desperate efforts, he decided to toy with her with a couple tricks. The hero asked with a huge smile how she was feeling, if she couldn't take it anymore, and would beg him to stop. The embarrassed Nie Xiaoqian was circled by vines. It was hard to tell if she was enjoying herself or feeling pain. There was no way she wanted to beg him to stop. Gao Miao had wanted to do such a thing for a long time. It was just that she had just now presented herself to him, and he couldn't resist. He used the feather to tickle the girl a little. She couldn't take it anymore and cried like a little girl. The green, thorny vines slowly lowered Nie Xiaoqian down. Gao Miao, in the guise of a dryad, hoped that she remembered this lesson and would not make the same mistakes. The depressed girl slowly sank to the floor. There were many incomprehensible thoughts in her head. The room was enveloped by a smoke that came from nowhere. Xiaoqian appeared to have used her ability to escape. Gao Miao had no time to do anything. Our protagonist scratched his head and didn't understand what he had done wrong. After all, he was powerless in matters related to women. He interpreted his actions by seeing a similar scene in a movie. In a huge room. On the bed sat Nie Xiaoqian. She did not understand anything. The dryad's actions were still unknown to her, but no matter how the dryad changed, in her mind she was a very evil being. In a temple 300 miles away, 2 men were talking inside the temple. They were discussing a woman born on a lunar year, month, and day. Her name was Xiaoqian. There was no other information, which surprised the man who was called King Bing. King Bing promised that he would surely find her. A palace in a tree, in a dungeon. The dungeon was stocked with every comfort. There were many different kinds of furniture. The dungeon itself was wrapped in great big vines. Gao Miao approached the dome-shaped dungeon where Yanxiao was imprisoned. He took a seat across from the Taoist's table. He seemed to have distracted him from eating his food. With a bandaged forehead and left eye, the Taoist looked at the dryad. He questioned who he really was. Looking at the dryad eating his rice, he didn't understand where such exuberant, strong ki came from in the battle then. Hearing his question, Gao Miao stopped eating. With a challenging look at him, he replied that he could try to guess. In his mind, he was thinking about his mistakes. Sensing nothing in the dryad's words, Yanxiao began to speculate. After thinking for a long time, he came to the conclusion that that guy's energy was as powerful as the martial arts generals who had killed many on the battlefields. Without coming to a concrete final conclusion, the Taoist asked that such a powerful man had nothing to hide, and directly asked him again who he was. With a chuckle, Gao Miao ignored his question. With his hand placed behind his back, he replied, "You only need to know 3 things. First, the entire battle was the plan of the man who had appeared then during their battle. Second, they don't have to be enemies. Thirdly, Gao Miao in the guise of a dryad was free to do whatever he wanted, not letting some heavenly beings ruin his plans. Yan Xiao pondered over his words. The cell doors remained open. When he fully understood his words, he could come out. Daos was going over in his head all the motives and reasons for the Dryad's actions, finding in places something human in his actions. Gao Miao left the cell in the meantime. With little Nui, they slowly approached the main room of the palace. The floor of the room was covered with a huge carpet with gold stripes. Cao Miao told Nui that it was better to have as many friends with such strength as possible than to make meaningless enemies in their form. Nui nodded with sparkling eyes, pretending to understand what was said. With their hands behind their backs, Gao Miao and little Nui approached the next room of the hall. No matter what that Taoist thought to himself, as long as they didn't become enemies, everything would be fine. 3 days later, in a huge reception hall for guests, the table was laden with a multitude of viands. 3 creatures sat around the table, served by ghost girls. The protagonist sat on a golden chair with vines wrapped around it. Nie Xiaoqian stood quietly to his left. He was discussing with the guests about the news of the Heavenly Demon Tea Party that would be held in a few years. Little Nui said that there was no information about this event in the system, and it seemed that Gao Miao was to blame for changing the story. The system only had information about the 3 monsters sitting next to him. The first creature's name was Qi Lin. He had huge red wings sticking out from his back. In his hands, he held a floral motif fan. His strength was equal to 900 demonic years. He seemed to be interested in the female ghosts of the palace. The second being's name was Mengkut. His strength was also 900 demonic years. He was Qilin's brother. Mengkut's appearance was similar to demons. Instead of ears, he had 2 huge horns. His skin was ash gray in color, and his upper body was unclothed, revealing well-developed muscles. The third creature's name was Ghost Tail. She was a snake woman. Small snakes would pop out of her hair every now and then. Her strength also equaled 900 demonic years. After taking a sip of the drink, Gao Miao realized that if it wasn't for the enhancement obtained from the magic tree, the Dryad would have never equaled them in strength. Since the Dryad was much weaker without her natural environment, they often visited her palace, wishing to receive various gifts. They must have had bad intentions even now, but he didn't know exactly the whole situation or the motives for their arrival. He was confident that he had well concealed all traces of extraneous qi on his body, with the help of having such palace properties, in another room. As for the Taoist and his companions, there was no way they could have reported it to them. Qilin spoke up and reminded that he was very fond of beauties. The ghost girl pouring the tea was startled. She was hit hard by the energy released from the demon bird's hand. He didn't like the girl who served him. Running his fingers across the table, he was displeased. His displeasure was caused by the fact that he had kept the most beautiful girl to himself. The food from the table flew toward Nie Xiaoqian, driven by magical energy. She was unable to move to dodge it. Gao Miao released his vines and easily smashed the flying dishes. Outwardly, he was angry, but inwardly, he was jubilant. As expected, they had come to him with bad intentions. Qilin didn't seem to value the strength of the Dryad in front of him. The ghost girls serving the guests scattered in terror to different sides of the palace. Qilin didn't expect him to stand up for Xiaoqian, thus becoming his enemy. The snake girl had a very sharp charm. She smelled the Taoist priest hiding in the palace. The demon bull named Mengkut was furious. He hated Taoist priests the most. Raising his axe, he looked towards the room where Yan Xiao was hiding. At the same time, in the Taoist's room, the young newlyweds didn't understand why the palace suddenly became so noisy. Sensing something amiss, the Taoist turned his head in the direction of the sound. The wall of the room was punctured, shards of stone flying inside. A bull demon head peeked out of the wall with a horrible grin. Yang Xiao wondered how he could find them. After all, an aura concealment spell had been used on him and his brother and his wife. The Taoist took the situation seriously, as he had not yet fully recovered his strength. Mengkut tried to squeeze into the gap, widening it with his huge body. But no sooner had he taken a step toward the room than green, spiky vines circled his neck. Gao Miao materialized a vine from his hand and reclined the bull back to its original place. The other companions didn't understand his actions, nor was it why he wanted so badly to become their enemies. Meanwhile, a bandaged Yan Xiao emerged from the resulting crack, covering his brother and his wife with his hand. Hiding his true intentions, the general hero said he just decided to catch them to play. Manhut, who had backed away from the blow, did not expect to be stabbed in the back and was furious. The snake girl meanwhile noticed the companions behind the Taoist, and she really liked the scholar-looking guy. The demon bird recalled that the demon king of the Black Mountain had issued an order to kill all Taoists and scholars who possessed the aura of righteousness. They were all enemies of the demons. But Qilin was willing to put in a good word with the demon king if he gave the woman behind him. Yan Xiao at the same time wanted to help the dryad with the demons and told his companions to take care of themselves. He wanted to try and help restrain them. Gao Miao could barely contain himself. He didn't think that he would be intimidated by the name of some demon king. Stroking the embarrassed Ni Xiaoqian, he decided he would not give up anyone even if the demon king of the Black Mountain came here personally. Vines began to wriggle rapidly in all directions under the influence of the dryad's power. Gao Miao had just revealed his strength of 900 demonic years. Worriedly, Qilin straightened his fan. The demon bird didn't understand how he could be so arrogant. After all, even if he reached the strength of 900 years old with his natural talent, he would never break through to a higher level. Qilin decided to teach the newly rising in strength self-confident dryad a good lesson. Manhwa the bull demon was angry at Gao Miao for attacking him and also wanted to give him a beating. The snake girl reminded him that his power is temporary. As soon as he left the palace, it would return to its previous level. The hero grinned and had to agree with her. In the plot of the movie, the dryad was the weakest creature among this trio. Little Nui saw Yan Xiao gather everyone in the room with the hole punched. She didn't feel guilty that she couldn't warn them. Gao Miao, in the guise of a dryad, summoned huge vines with his ability. Green flames burned on his palm. The lianas attacked the demon bird he began to dodge. Behind him, a phantom of a huge red bird manifested. Debris from the floor flew. The general hero also did not forget about their other demons. Manhwa hastily blocked the attack released by the dryad. When the snake girl saw the attack coming towards her, she also started to dodge. They didn't expect him to start a fight against them all at once. Watching them fight, Nie Xiaoqian wondered how he had so much courage. After all, he was the weakest among the three, and was scared shitless of all of them. The general hero inwardly scoffed at their words about kinship. A huge fist woven from the vines that were joined together flew towards Qilin. Flames swirled around the demon bird. Behind him, a huge, majestic bird was watching everything. Two forces collided together. The firebird slowly dissipated. Qilin, losing his spirit, was forced to retreat. The demon bird was forced to admit he was no match for him. Only by working together would they be able to kill the dryad demon. Taking out the talisman, Yang Xiao blocked his brother and the ghost girls. Only by joining forces will they be victorious, the bull demon thought. Making a tally, Ghost Tail, Snake Girl realized that one of them would die in this battle. With a smile, Masha Fanchilin felt the strength of the general hero not wanting to fight him and tried to dissuade him from fighting them. His companions were of the same opinion. No one wanted to die now. But Gao Miao was of a different opinion and gathering even more strength. A fist coiled with green vines flew towards Manhwa, making a razzled expression on his face. Demon Bull ran out of the palace room in shame. Unprepared for such an outcome, his fellow demons also hurriedly retreated. They gathered in an open area near a magic tree. Their hunch was confirmed. There is treasure in the palace. Manhwa in no way thought that Gao Miao would defend the Taoist and his brother. Ghost Tail said that if they could capture the company, the Demon King would reward them generously. Qilin knew that the Black Mountain Demon King was looking for the Zhao King woman. After seeing everything with his own eyes, he realized that the beautiful ghost woman behind the demon dryad was what the king was looking for. The demon bull didn't think he dared to go against all of them. Having devised a plan, the demon bird shared it with his companions. He proposed to go to the territory of another demon king and find demons there willing to make an alliance with them to kill the dryad. And the demon's reward will be all the lands, the riches in the palace, and their reward will be the Taoist and the scholar. The snake girl wasn't that stupid and guessed that Qilin knew more details than them. But she didn't reject the demon bird's plan. Qilin's share would be ghost girls. Demon Bull was in agreement with Ghost Tail. Little Nui congratulates Gao Miao on his victory, but Gao Miao objects and says that it's no victory at all since he fought against weaklings. According to Little Nui's available information, these demons want revenge, so you need to be on the alert. Especially the bird demon who tortured the ghost woman for 7 days because she disobeyed his orders. But Gao Miao is not afraid of them. He is ready for their arrival. Nai Xiaoqian made a soup of old snails, redbird, snake tail, and even added some old bark. But the sisters don't want to eat her soup. Liu Xiaoshan is constantly with her husband and cooks for herself. The Taoist priest concentrates on his cultivation and can't taste the soup either. So the only one who can taste the soup is Gao Miao. According to the information Lu Xiaoqian heard, that someone had possessed the dryad. And the one who is now in the dryad's body is most likely a great monk. So he has become so kind. Ni Xiaoqian made the soup specifically to express her gratitude to Gao Miao for protecting her from the demon bird. But she thinks that if she gives him the soup, despite the way he treated her before, it won't look like she likes him. Suddenly, Nie Xiaoqian saw Gao Miao walking towards her and froze for a moment. If you liked this video, put a like and leave a comment and I'll do a part 2. See you soon.